The Elder Dragon Hojo Miyoko coming through with a pineapple fried rice, and something that I hadn't really seen before until this. Taking your fried rice and actually baking it into the pineapple is a super interesting idea, and we're gonna put this to the test. I gotta be honest, I really just wanted to eat pineapple fried rice today. Everyone's made this dish, it looks delicious. I gotta put it in my mouth. I just really wanted fried rice today. Here we are. First things first, we need a little shot of espresso. Now let's get all of our dry spices set up. For this, we're going to use 1 tablespoon worth of granulated garlic, 1 tablespoon worth of cumin, 1 teaspoon worth of ground mustard, and once we can actually figure out this jar, we're going to use 1 teaspoon worth of turmeric. This is going to give it that really nice color. We're also going to use 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. You can use a whole cinnamon stick if you have it, but I like the ground stuff. 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. This is going to give it that nice spice that I really like. And then also, if you have it, you can use a curry blend. This is very common. You can find this in most big grocery stores, and it has a lot of the stuff that we're using today. That way, you don't have to buy a bunch of spices you may not use again. And you know what? We're going to go ahead and throw a 1/2 teaspoon of this in as well. Now, ground allspice and ground cloves are totally optional, but I really do like the flavor that they give, so we're just going to do a little sprinkle of each, literally 1/4 teaspoon. These can be super strong and overpowering, so don't overdo it. Now we have our fresh plate of spices. Honestly, you could make your own by toasting and grinding them, but this will work. We're also going to use fresh garlic and fresh ginger. This way we're going to have granulated garlic and fresh garlic. We're going to go ahead and prepare both of these more or less the same, but just make sure you get all of your ginger trimmed so that way you don't have any of that peel that you have to deal with. We're also going to be using about 3 to 4 cloves of garlic. You can up this or make it less if you want to, but then we're going to take this and grate them over a microplane or a zester. This gets it really fine as opposed to just chopping it up with a knife, which you can do with a knife, but it just makes it a little bit easier and it makes it incorporate into the rice just a little bit better. And if you are using a microplane, just remember to turn it over and get all that good off the backside. You really do want that. Now for the vegetables. Honestly, you could use whatever hard vegetables you want, but we're going to use bell pepper, carrots, and onions for this. For the bell pepper and the carrots, we're going to dice these more or less the same. Just remember to clean out the inside of the bell pepper. You don't actually want that part of it. And then we're going to go ahead and do a small dice on these so you can see what I mean. We want to make sure that all these have the same exact size, so that way when you put them on a spoon, you have a little bit of each piece on the spoon. Now go ahead and put this into a bowl. You don't have to separate these by any means. It'll be fine. Now we're going to use about 1/2 of this carrot, and then finally realize that you should have just kept the carrot whole when you needed to peel it so you don't have to peel 2 carrots. I'm only going to be using 1/2 of the bell pepper and 1/2 of the carrot, and I'll just save the rest for hummus. Now we're going to go ahead and cut the carrots in the same way we cut the bell pepper. The entire thing with the fried rice is you want a nice mouthfeel, so you want to be able to have each piece of your vegetable on the spoon at all times anytime you take a bite. So once you go ahead and dice these up into your small dice, go ahead and pop them onto your bell peppers, and we're going to go ahead and move on to your onions. Now, these white onions are optional, but I think they add a tremendous flavor to the stir fry itself by a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of tang. They do the whole thing. We just need 1/2 an onion. And finally, for me, no fried rice is complete without some fresh green onions. I like to cut the green onions for fried rice at about 1/4 inch so they don't instantly disintegrate into your wok when you start to cook them. You don't need too much. I like to use about 2 ounces of green onions. Now, for the pineapple under the sea. Make sure this pineapple is thoroughly washed because you are going to be using it as a cooking vessel. Most melons and pineapples carry a lot of dirt, but go ahead and cut off the top, and we're going to save this as our garnish. Now we're going to go ahead and cut the entire pineapple in half, so that way we have a top and a bottom. We're going to need to stuff the rice into one and use the other one as the lid for when we start baking it off, but we need to remove the flesh. Now to remove this, I'd like to take a paring knife and cut around the outside at about a 45-ish degree angle to start cutting towards the center of the pineapple. This is going to help loosen the flesh from the pineapple, and then take a spoon and further start loosening it up until it comes out as one big chunk. Now there is a reason for this. I like to cut my pineapple to be uniform with the other vegetables, so again, you have everything on a single spoon. Be careful when cutting towards the root or the core of the pineapple. It gets kind of tough, but now we're going to go ahead and slice this so that way we can get it ready to dice. Again, we're going for that nice small dice, a little bit of a 1/4 inch size for your pineapple, so that way it's about the same size as your onions and your carrots. You are going to want to place this in a separate bowl because you're going to add this at a different cooking time than the rest of your vegetables, so make sure this is separated. Oh, and save all this good juice. We're going to need that. Now Now we have all of our mise en place ready except for the rice. You'll be asking, Paul, why don't you have rice ready? You need old rice. I mean, I made this 2 hours ago, but it's still old enough. We're using a short grain rice for this one instead of jasmine or anything like that, simply because I'm pretty sure that's what she used. But jasmine or a long grain rice would be really, really nice for this too. Just remember, using cold, day-old-ish rice is going to be your best bet for a couple of reasons. If you're using hot rice to make fried rice, you're basically cooking the rice 2, and in this case 3 times. So you may run into the issues of having it be kind of mushy. Instead, make your rice a day ahead or just bulk prep rice and throw some in the fridge if you're going to be making fried rice later in the week. Then whenever you want, you can just pull out a bunch of this and just make fried rice. Now to get things started, we actually have to cook off our egg. Get your pot screaming hot with a little bit of oil in there and dump in 2 scrambled eggs. Now what we're gonna do is actually not hard scramble this in your wok. That's because we actually wanna remove this once it's about a medium stiffness, and that just means it's not very gooey, but also not chalk. The reason why you do this is so you can introduce it back towards the end so it doesn't overcook completely. Now add in a little bit more oil to your wok and add in all of your hard vegetables, your carrots, your bell peppers, and your onions. And we're gonna go ahead and hard stir fry these. That just means you have it cranked up to the highest heat you possibly can with the flame that you're using. Once your onions and your carrots are a little bit translucent, we're gonna add in our garlic and our ginger and start stir frying that together with the rest of your hard vegetables. Once your ginger and your garlic has completely incorporated itself, that's when we're going to actually add in all of our dry spices. Now with your heat turned up pretty high, we're gonna continue to saute this until everything starts to fully incorporate itself and you see some of the dry spice start to stick to the wok. Once it starts sticking, this is when we're actually going to deglaze it with our pineapples and all of that pineapple juice. I'm also going to add in a little bit of this black Chinese vinegar. I love this stuff. We're gonna use about a tablespoon of that, as well as a tablespoon of rice vinegar. If you don't have any black vinegar, just use another tablespoon of your rice vinegar. Make sure you completely deglaze the pan so nothing is sticking to the bottom. Season your spoon because we don't season the stir fry, and give this a complete toss until everything is beautifully incorporated. What you're looking for is to not have a bunch of liquid at the bottom. Then I'm gonna go ahead and throw in a little bit of peanut or cashew or whatever other nuts that you have, or just leave them out, but they had a nice crunch. Now we're gonna add in 3 cups of our cold, day-old, 2-hour-ish old cooked rice. Don't be afraid to dump this all in there, it'll be fine. Add in just a touch more oil to this to get some of that crispiness back to the rice and make sure it's totally broken up. The goal is to make sure that all of the rice is fully incorporated with all of your spices and all of your vegetables and everything so there aren't any weird pockets of rice. And finally, your last 2 ingredients, your green onions and your egg. And what I like to do is just honestly just chop up the egg. You could cut this on your cutting board with a knife, but just use a spoon, it's fine. When I think of pineapple and spicy, I think of lime juice, and thinking of lime juice makes me want to crush this to get it all over my kitchen. Now we just have to give it one final taste test because after this, we're going to go ahead and stuff it in the pineapple. So taste it now and re-season it if you really need to. Mine needed a little bit of salt. Give it another taste, make sure it's good to go. And this one is good job. This one is omega good job. Now they mentioned that they had seasoned the inside of the pineapple, and this is going to help further season your rice, but you don't need to overdo it on the salt. Now we get to stuff the rice into the pineapple, and the goal is to stuff enough in there to still fit the lid on to where it's a complete seal. Use a spoon to gently pat the rice in, but don't be too forceful, otherwise you will crush the rice. Throw your lid on it and make sure this guy doesn't roll around. We're gonna bake this in an oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 minutes. Go ahead and pull this guy out, remove whatever rice is off your cutting board, and just give it a little love tap, you know, maybe shake it loose a little bit and unveil your Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time treasure. It looks gorgeous. Now I gave this a big old whiff, and I will say it did have a lot of that pineapple fragrance and it smells awesome. Now go ahead and grease up whatever bowl you want. You don't want it to be too big, and we're just going to grease the inside of this so that way when we start packing in our rice, it'll actually release itself very easily. We end up using all of the rice out of the pineapple and include the bottom of that pineapple because there's a lot of good left on there, so I like to scrape all that off and just put it right on top. Now use your spoon to gently even this out and pat it down so you're not crushing your rice. You don't want to crush this, otherwise it'll be mush. Now we're going to flip this over on a plate. We're going to one-shot this thing. Watch this. No problem. Your greased bowl should instantly release, and now we're going to garnish it with our pineapple top thing. And there it is, guys, our pineapple fried rice from Miss Hojo Miyoko from Food Wars. Seriously, omega good job. And say hi to Gandalf. Hi, buddy. He doesn't care about us right now. There it is, guys, the pineapple curry fried rice from none other than Miss Hojo Miyoko from Food Wars, and her name's a tongue twister for me. I will admit, this is incredibly fragrant. There's a ton of awesome smells coming off of this, especially the pineapple. It's making my mouth water. You guys want a bite? You guys want a bite of that? Oh. It's so good. Wow, all the spices come through so well. Has a nice kick to it. You get a little bit of crunch from the peanuts. The pineapple isn't overcooked, which is why I added it towards the end. The rice is perfect. It hasn't exploded at all. None of the granulars are broken. This is delicious. What's your favorite way of having fried rice? I love anything spicy, so this kind of is right up my alley. If you guys want some of my very own recipes from all the anime and video games we've covered, check out my book at the description below. My name is Chef PK, here on Foodie Friday, bringing anime and video game food to life. Get subscribed, and remember, keep playing with your food, because I'm about to throw another egg on this.